some twit instead of looking up to Thomas Jefferson or looking up to Nikola Tesla or looking up to Magellan. I mean, kids, Magellan's a lot cooler than Justin Bieber. He circumnavigated with one ship the entire planet. He was killed by wild natives before they got back to Portugal. And when they got back, there was only like 11 people alive of the 200 and something crew, and the entire ship was rotting down to the waterline. That's destiny. That's will. That's striving. That's being a trailblazer, an explorer, going into space, mathematics, quantum mechanics, the secrets of the universe. It's all there. Life is fiery with its beauty, its incredible detail. Tuning into it. They want to shatter your mind talking about Justin Bieber.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Can we give it up for Stephanie? She's doing such a good job. I mean, so are Colton and Brad, but Stephanie's really been stepping it up with the merch these days. Let's give it up. Love you, honey. Yeah, the Artemis Lodge. Yesterday was one of those days where you check the news and wonder the country is being run by the writer's room of a show that got canceled for being too unrealistic. Yesterday, the President of the United States, the most powerful man on earth, walked into the Supreme Court, sat down, and was legally required to keep his mouth shut. For an hour, Donald Trump, silent, in public for 60 minutes. This is a man who once live tweeted a cabinet meeting. They should give him a medal just for that. And while he sat there in complete silence, a Supreme Court justice, Ivy League educated, lifetime appointment, one of the most 9 most powerful legal minds in the country, explained birthright citizenship using a story about stealing a wallet in Japan. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson said, "If I steal someone's wallet in Japan, the Japanese authorities can arrest me and prosecute me. I'm still locally owing allegiance in that sense." Now, the ACLU lawyer who responded said, "That's absolutely right, Justice Jackson." Well, I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. Trump sat there silent watching. Probably the first time in his life he ever wished he could tweet from inside a building, and he couldn't. There's a real legal debate underneath the wallet joke. The question of what subject to the jurisdiction thereof actually meant in 1868 is contested, but the wallet story is not helping the left's case. The internet has already done what the internet does. The best response circulating online: "I got pulled over by the police in Mexico once. That means I am Mexican. I have to go tell my kids." Fly me to the moon. Let me play among the stars. So that is America in 2026, litigating the meaning of citizenship with a pickpocket story set in Tokyo. But there is more. Last Saturday, 8 million people were apparently in the streets for something called No Kings. 8 million. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know we're no fans.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Norm, watch your language. Thank God we're not on the radio. So the organizers counted their attendance the same way that you count your own calories on vacation. But even if you cut the number in half that they say were there, they say 8 million, 4 million, the largest single day protest in modern American history. And it was organized by a coalition that includes the Party for Socialism and Liberation, the Freedom Road Socialist Organization, and a network of groups tied to an American tech billionaire who lives in Shanghai and identifies as a communist. Very spontaneous, very grassroots, very organic, very from the people. The people, and also George Soros, but mostly the people. And then Mayra Flores, the first Mexican-born woman ever elected to Congress, 3 losses on her record, stood at CPAC and told the Republican Party it has no future without Hispanic voters. She's right, and the party that just voted her out of her own primary is too proud to admit it. So that, of course, tracks. And then there's Missouri right here, our state, my state, 55 degrees and kind of rainy, little cold. Missouri House voted to abolish the state income tax entirely, the first serious attempt to do this in 45 years. Just to put that in perspective, so while other states are dreaming up new ways to tax you, Missouri's trying to stop taxing your income altogether. Zero, none. Keep what you earn. So that is a bill passed with nearly 2/3 of the House chamber, and now it's being taken up by the Senate. And I was in the state capitol yesterday with the lovely Camelia Petersen testifying in favor. Yes, please. Camelia will be here. Camelia Petersen will be joining us, and we will have Heather Overstreet at 8:30. He was also there at the convention. We're going to talk to her a little bit about the No Kings protest. So, big show today. Trump v. Barbara, the SCOTUS case that could redefine American citizenship for generations. Otis McDonald and your gun rights, why the 14th Amendment might be the most libertarian document in the Constitution after the Second Amendment, so why you shouldn't gut it. Mayra Flores and the Hispanic voter data, Heather Overstreet talking about the No Kings movement, and Camelia Petersen to talk us what's happening right now inside the Missouri Senate on income tax abolishment. Yes. So thank you to Quest Fanning for the sweet, sweet bonus content. Can you bless me with something?
Can you bless me with something?
Oh, gosh.
Money-wise. Please.
Can you suck it?
What? Head on over to forlibertyshop.com this morning. Remember to help us unlock that bonus content, help you unlock the bonus content. You get to enjoy that sweet, sweet bonus content. Today's mini documentary on Sam Adams. So every dollar that you contribute adds up. Once we hit $100, that will unlock your mini documentary. And instead of going to commercials right before our guests come on, you get to view the mini documentary instead of commercials, which our commercials are fun, but not as fun as the bonus content. So unlock it early and often. Head on over to forlibertyshop.com. I couldn't resist. I had to order this right away. Andy Opperman actually got his order in before I did, but I was doing some grilling last weekend, and why are you laughing? It was a delicious brisket. No, honestly, it was not my best brisket. It was a little tough. It was all my fault, though. Thomas Jefferson wearing a colonial soldier. Hey, Jefferson, you didn't serve in the military. This is stolen valor. Stolen valor! Stephanie was surprised when I told her that the other day. Thomas Jefferson didn't fight? No, he was a very gentle man. A gentleman. But you can dress up like a colonial soldier at your barbecue. You need an apron. Get the Revolutionary War grill and apron over at forlibertyshop.com. Guys, it's beautiful. I can't stinking wait until mine comes in. Head over to forlibertyshop.com. That's the number, forlibertyshop.com. That's such a good price for that, too. Forlibertyshop.com. And every purchase that you make during the live show, whether it's the Colonial Soldier grill and apron or something else perhaps from our 250th anniversary collection, head to forlibertyshop.com this morning. Unlock the bonus content. Get that embroidered American flag polo shirt. I was looking at a video of me wearing this the other day, and I was like, I want the white one, damn it. Save it up. And, of course, my Department of Revolution baseball tee that I'm wearing today. Hope you guys enjoy. All righty, let's get to the news. We got a lot to discuss here.
This is not my opinion. This is a fact. If you look at the census, if you look at the birth rate, we have to. There is no future for the Republican Party if we do not invest in the Hispanic community. And what I need Washington to do is to, thank you. What I need Washington to do is to stop dictating what we do. Complement our work. Yes. Complement what we do. Do not tell us what to do. We know exactly what to do to win the midterms.
Are we sure about this? Sounds a lot like an opinion, lady. All right, so 5 days ago, a woman stood on that stage there, Mayra Flores, in Grapevine, Texas, told the entire Republican Party it has no future without the Hispanic community. A few people nodded. Some people were inspired by this. Almost nobody in the room mentioned the most important detail of that. The woman giving that speech had just lost her own Republican primary in a majority Hispanic district to a Trump-backed opponent 3 weeks earlier. So that's like losing the spelling bee and then giving a TED talk about literacy. Just try to make sure we understand. So So Mayra Flores, she's one of the most interesting and complicated figures in the Republican Party today. Not because she won, she's lost 3 times now, but because of what her career reveals about a fight happening inside the right. A fight that will determine whether the Republican Party becomes a multiracial working class coalition or whether we just borrowed some votes in 2024 and we're about to give them back to the Democrats with interest. So let's start with the facts. Mayra Flores, she was born in Burgos, Tamaulipas, Mexico. Her family moved to the United States when she was 6. She became a citizen at 14. She grew up in the Rio Grande Valley. She worked in the cotton fields as a kid alongside her parents to buy school clothes. She became a respiratory therapist. She married a Customs and Border Protection officer. And in June of 2022, she won a special election in Texas's 34th Congressional District. She became the first Mexican-born woman ever elected to the United States Congress. Well, congratulations. So the first Republican to hold the Rio Grande Valley seat in more than 150 years. That is not a political story. That's a history book entry. And the Democrats, of course, attacked her, called her an extremist, because that is what they do when someone from the wrong group shows up with the wrong voter registration. Anyway, 3 years later, she's giving speeches at CPAC about a party that just voted her out of her own primary. Now, before we debate whether she is right or wrong, so let's understand what she said. And what she said, what is actually happening with Hispanic voters right now, the data is pretty wild. And if you aren't paying attention to it, you might be very confused when November rolls around. So let's talk about 2024, because this is where I have some sympathy for the argument that you don't need to grovel for the Hispanic vote. In 2016, Donald Trump won 28% of Hispanic voters. The media told you he was a racist who could never win Latinos. Then came 2024. Trump ran on mass deportation, border security. Trump ran on sending ICE to your neighborhood. Now he's sending them to do the job for the TSA. And he won 45 to 48% of the Hispanic vote. Pew, Edison Research, NBC News, they all confirmed it. Trump nearly won a majority of Hispanic voters. No Republican presidential candidate has ever done that. Not Reagan, not George W. Bush, nobody. Among Hispanic men specifically, NBC News showed Trump winning 54%. More than half of Latino men voted for the guy the media spent 9 years calling literally Hitler. The same media that will now spend the next year explaining to you why that never happened and what it actually meant. I can't wait for next year, guys. In 2020, Joe Biden had a 25-point advantage with Hispanic voters. By 2024, that margin was essentially gone. So the conventional wisdom that you cannot talk tough on immigration and win Hispanic votes was empirically demolished, finished, buried. It's gone. The data did not just challenge the conventional wisdom or the narrative that the media was feeding to us. It took the conventional wisdom out behind the barn and gave it some whoop ass. So the same data sources that showed that now show something very different happening in 2026. Keep in mind, it is just April, but Trump's approval among Hispanic voters has collapsed to 22%, according to a March 2026 analysis by The Economist. So he won 48% of their votes in November. He's now at 22% approval. So the 2025 New Jersey gubernatorial race, 68% of Latino voters supported the Democrat. In Virginia, they swung back pretty heavily. In CBS News, they described it as almost back to pre-Trump numbers in year one. So what happened? So what is the difference between November of 2024, when Trump got elected, and today? The answer is not the media's lying, okay? So keep listening here. The real story behind this. So I want to talk about something that Flores posted on social media because it's funny. Flores posted, and this is a direct quote, "I love tortas. Conservative Latinas are here to stay, whether you like it or not. Hateful, jealous white women like you are being phased out." Okay. Of course, that blew up online. Several things. First, tortas are delicious. That's not a political statement. That's a fact. But I want you to imagine just for a moment, if a conservative white woman posted that a specific racial group of women was being phased out, I want you to really sit with that image. Take your time, because we would still be hearing about it. There would be congressional hearings. Rachel Maddow would come out of retirement. Joy Behar would cry on television again. I'm just noting the rules apparently do not apply here in all directions. Now, here's what nobody wants to say out loud. So Flores is swinging back at a very specific group of people, and she has earned the right to be angry at them. We all have. Because here's what actually happened to her. She is a Mexican-born immigrant, legal, naturalized. She's a respiratory therapist. She's a mother, Border Patrol wife. The exact profile of the woman that the progressive left claims to champion. When she got to Congress, she applied to join the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. The CHC is the largest working group in Congress for lawmakers of Hispanic descent. They rejected her. Their official response was that her, quote, extreme MAGA values did not align with their values. So think about that for a second. The first Mexican-born congresswoman in American history rejected by the Hispanic caucus because she had an R next to her name. The Party of Inclusion decided she didn't qualify as Hispanic enough for their Hispanic club. She was born in Mexico. That's like Weight Watchers refusing to let somebody join because they're not fat enough. Okay. Austin. The compassion that the left has for immigrant women is not portable. It doesn't travel across party lines. It evaporates the instant the woman in question refuses to be a Democrat. And this brings me to something I said a little earlier. If immigration was primarily composed of conservative Latinas and traditional Japanese women, the kind who do not show up at the right rallies or vote the right way, the exact same progressive women currently weeping at border vigils would form SS Panzer units overnight. They would become immigration restrictionists so fast, your head would spin. The solidarity is political. It's not human. It's a costume. And Flores has been watching these women wear that costume for years, telling her she is not really a Latina. So yeah, she likes tortas and she's angry. And honestly, same. I like tortas too. I like tortas. You like tortas. But let's talk about that double standard for just a minute, guys. The double standard and the thing that nobody on the right really wants to say, except for the darkest of dark 4chan threads. Here's where I'm going to go I'm going to step on some toes. You guys ready? You ready to spice it up a little bit? Okay. Listen carefully. Flores' tweet about white women being phased out is funny to a lot of people on the right. And I understand why. White liberal women have done more damage to this country's institutions in the last 15 years than almost any other voting bloc in America. They are the engine behind every woke corporate policy, every DEI department, every school board meeting where they tried to smuggle gender ideology into your kid's classroom, every blue city that defunded the police and then acted shocked when crime went up or they got punched in the face by a homeless person while they were making a TikTok. Don't laugh. This is true. That's just looking at who runs these institutions and how they vote. But here's the problem. The phrase white women being phased out does not land that way for everybody. When a white Republican man in Ohio or Missouri or Kansas reads that tweet, he's not thinking about Rachel Maddow and the board of directors of BlackRock. He's thinking about his wife, his mother, his daughter. And suddenly what reads as a sick burn on progressive women in Brooklyn reads like something else entirely. It reads like white replacement theory with better shoes and an R after your name. And that's the trap. Vivek Ramaswamy spent his entire 2024 presidential campaign trying to thread this needle. His argument was essentially that the answer to identity politics from the left is not identity politics from the right, that colorblind meritocracy is the only principle that actually holds a diverse coalition together over the long period. You can disagree with how he executed that argument. Plenty of people do. But the underlying tension that Ramaswamy pointed at was real. Because if the Republican Party is going to build a multiracial coalition that Flores herself is arguing for at CPAC, it cannot simultaneously be winking at rhetoric that makes white Republican voters feel like they're being replaced. Those two things are in direct conflict. And here's the distinction that matters, and almost nobody is making this cleanly. White liberal women as a political force are a legitimate target of political criticism. Their policies are failing every community they claim to care about. That is a fair fight, and Flores has standing to throw punches in it. But white women are being phased out as a demographic statement is not a political argument. It's the same blood and soil logic that the left uses, just pointed in a different direction. And the second conservatives start celebrating demographic replacement instead of condemning it as a concept, they've lost the argument on the merits, because you cannot tell the left that demographic obsession is poison and then cheer when your side does it. You don't get that. Nobody gets that. Now, I think Flores knows the difference, but the tweet suggests she just didn't care in that moment. And honestly, given everything that the left did to her, it's understandable. It's still wrong, and the party that wants to win in November needs to know the difference between the two. Have we been clear about that? So was the 2024 election a realignment or was it a rental? A realignment means that Hispanic voters are becoming structurally more Republican, values, economics, and culture, pulling them right in a way that persists regardless of who is on the ballot. A rental means Trump borrowed those votes in 2024 because of a perfect storm, post-COVID inflation. Kamala Harris is the opponent, an anti-establishment mood that would have made anyone running against the status quo look good. Trump literally got shot. And those votes, those Hispanic votes, they don't necessarily automatically transfer to some congressman from Ohio nobody's ever heard of in a midterm. The data right now, it's pointing toward a rental, and the lease is almost up. The National Republican Congressional Committee is targeting Hispanic-heavy congressional districts in Texas, California, and New Jersey. They need those seats to hold the House. They're betting 2024 was the beginning of something real, but every recent number was running the wrong way. Republican pollster Darren Shaw said that he can envision the GOP holding South Texas and South Florida, but beyond those areas, he said, you're getting kind of late in the cycle for Republicans to turn the economy around. California Republican Mike Madrid put it this way: there's very little evidence suggesting Latinos are becoming more Republican. And this is the part that should make every Republican strategist put their Chardonnay down and pay attention. The Brookings Institution looked at why Trump won Latino men in 2024. Latino men under 40 supported Trump at 48%. 20% of them were first-time voters. Their number one issue across every single survey: cost of living, inflation, groceries, housing, eggs, specifically eggs. That was a big one. These men didn't have some road to Damascus conversion to conservatism. They did not suddenly discover Hayek at a quinceanera. They were angry about the price of food, and they voted for the guy who was not in charge when it happened. That's a legitimate and rational reason to vote for somebody. It's also extremely temporary if the grocery bill does not come down. So here's where the story requires some intellectual honesty. Trump ran on mass deportation and won more Hispanic votes than any Republican in modern history. And that happened. There is a real explanation for that. A very large portion of Hispanic voters in America are legal citizens, naturalized, first and second generation Americans who went through the process correctly, and they don't automatically feel solidarity with people who did not. Many Hispanic voters in South Texas live near the border. They see what happens when the border's not controlled. It's not some abstract cable news debate for these people. This is their town. So Trump's border message was not automatically toxic to these voters. The conventional wisdom said it would be. The voters disagreed. The implementation, though, of these policies, this is a different question. It's a different conversation. A CBS poll from March of 2026 found out that about half of Hispanics approved of Trump's program. So that number has dropped to about a third. So the difference is not the policy in theory. The difference is enforcement operations that are catching U.S.-born Latinos in the net, right? Legal residents, citizens, and people who voted for Trump. So imagine voting for someone and then watching ICE show up in the neighborhood and not being entirely sure if they know the difference between you and the guy they actually came for. That's why the numbers are moving. It's not a moral argument against border enforcement. Borders are legitimate. Enforcement is necessary. This is an argument about precision, because a surgeon who operates on the wrong patient has not just made an ethical error, he has lost his practice. And Republicans who cannot distinguish between a fourth-generation Texas whose family's been in the Rio Grande Valley since before Texas was a state and someone who crossed last Tuesday are not just making a policy error, they're making an electoral one. Flores knows this. She has won and lost in these communities. She's telling you what she saw on the ground, and the party that's too proud to listen because she lost a primary might want to check the polling before it pops the champagne. Thank you very much. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm your host, Austin Petersen. I'm glad and thankful to have you here. Real quick, what are you drinking right now? Because if the answer is Starbucks, we need to have a serious conversation. You are handing money to a company that spent the last 10 years telling you that you are the problem with America, while they charged you $6 for a cup of sugar milk. I have a better option. It is called Founding Flavors. It's delicious. It's the coffee named after the people who built this country. Jeffersonian Java, #1 seller in the shop. Franklin's Electric Elixir, Washington's Revolutionary Roast, Thomas's Painkiller, and yes, that last one is as good as it sounds. It is my #1 favorite. It's friggin' delicious. Premium, real coffee, roasted in America. No lectures, no pronouns on the cup, just excellent coffee that tastes like somebody actually cared about making it. Head to forlibertyshop.com this morning, guys. That's the #4 Liberty Shop. Check out Byron Norris over there buying some while I'm talking. Oh, Byron, you are going to friggin' love it, dude. You are going to friggin' love it. Thank you very much for your service to our nation as well. We're glad and grateful to have you here. If you just tuned into the Wake Up America show, click that like button. If today is your first time watching the Wake Up America show, click the follow button as well. We'd be glad and grateful to have you come back and join us every Monday through Friday. The show's schedule, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. We get to meet so many wonderful new people and make new friends through this show. We're going to Boston May 1st and 2nd for this year's Liberty Tour. And we get to meet Susan Austin in person, and she found us through... She found us through the show, and then she's like, hey, I see you guys are doing a Boston trip. Well, I'm signing up, and I'm bringing my family with me. And we're like, Susan Austin. So now we get to make this new friend and build this new healthy community. Andy Opperman's going to be in Boston. Quest Fanning's going to be in Boston. We're going to have an awesome group. And we're really glad and thankful that we have so many wonderful people who want to join us for our live events. So if you're interested in joining us in Boston, May 1st and 2nd, all of the details for that are at forlibertyshop.com. While you're there, at forlibertyshop.com, check out the 250th anniversary embroidered American flag polo shirt. I can't stop talking about this shirt, guys. It's so beautiful. And this is one of those polos that, one, you can't get it anywhere else because we literally designed it. It's embroidered. It's high quality. You're going to show up to like a church meeting or some event where people are going to see your American flag polo and be super jelly, guys. So get one. It's the ultimate gift for somebody who loves freedom, the man who loves freedom in your life. So head to forlibertyshop.com and get the 250th anniversary embroidered American flag polo shirt. Check out all of our 250th anniversary collection while you're reading the details about the Petersens Patriots Boston 250th anniversary tour. The latest product drops always on the front page, and all of our 5-star reviews available for you to read and see right there. Look, I love it when you guys take pictures of the products. It's so much fun. So yeah, we get a lot of really funny reviews too. So if you guys are looking for a good laugh, we've got 369 reviews. Nice. Look at that Amy J. Easley looking so cute. Got her jointed dye embroidered sweatshirt. Heck yes. Amy and I are going to lunch today. So if you're totes jelly, then you need to get like Amy Easley there and get yourself that join or die embroidered sweatshirt. I have the t-shirt version of that, and I friggin' love it. It's amazing. Gulf of America golf towels. Maybe we need to call it Gulf of America. Head to forlibertyshop.com, guys. Check out all of the newest, latest, greatest products. The latest product drops always on the front page there. I ordered my Colonial Soldier costume apron this morning, or maybe last night. It's all running together for me. All right. So let's talk about something else.
I was thinking about this, and I think there are various sources that say this, that you obviously have permanent allegiance based on being born in whatever country you're from. That's what everybody recognizes. But you also have local allegiance when you are on the soil of this other sovereign. And I was thinking, I, a U.S. citizen, am visiting Japan. And what it means is that, if I steal someone's wallet in Japan, the Japanese authorities can arrest me and prosecute me. It's allegiance, meaning can they control you as a matter of law? I can also rely on them if my wallet is stolen to, under Japanese law, go and prosecute the person who has stolen it. So there's this relationship based on, even though I'm a temporary traveler, I'm just on vacation in Japan, I'm still locally owing allegiance in that sense.
Okay, well, why the sense of, why stealing a wallet, Katash? Yesterday, for the first time in American history, a sitting president of the United States walked into the Supreme Court and watched his own lawyers argue his case. Trump sat in the Supreme Court yesterday for over an hour. Court rules don't allow him to speak. He just sat there and watched, which, if you know anything about Trump, is the single most difficult thing anyone has ever asked him to do. The man once tweeted during a cabinet meeting, and when he left, he got on Truth Social and wrote, "We're the only country in the world stupid enough to allow birthright citizenship." Now, I get it. That's not true. At least 33 countries grant automatic citizenship to anyone born on their soil. Canada does it. Mexico does it. Brazil does it. Argentina does it. Most of South America does it. So when Trump says we're the only country stupid enough to do this, what he means is we're the richest country that does this, which is a completely different but far more honest argument. But it doesn't, of course, fit on a Truth Social post as cleanly. So the United States is not alone on birthright citizenship. It is, however, the wealthiest nation on that list by a pretty wide margin. And that's the actual policy concern worth having. So this is one of those rare issues where both sides are partly right and almost nobody is being fully honest. This case at the Supreme Court is called Trump v. Barbara. The plaintiff is a Honduran woman who goes only by her first name because she fears for her life. The lawyer arguing against Trump's order is Cecilia Wang of the ACLU. She was born in Oregon to parents from Taiwan who were in the United States on student visas. So she's literally the product of the exact law she's in the court to defend. A ruling on this is expected by late June or early July. So before we get to the wallet, and we are going to get to the wallet, we need to understand the 14th Amendment, because most people do not know what it actually is or why it exists or why it's so important. And you cannot have an honest opinion about birthright citizenship without knowing the history. So the 14th Amendment was ratified July 9th, 1868, 3 years after the end of the Civil War. It was one of those Reconstruction-era amendments. It was written to solve a specific and horrifying problem. In 1857, the Supreme Court had ruled in Dred Scott v. Sanford that black people, even those born free on American soil, could never be citizens of the United States. The court said they had no rights which the white man was bound to respect. That's a direct quote from the actual decision. It's also the single worst sentence ever written by an American judge, and there's some stiff competition for that title. After the war, Congress passed the 14th Amendment specifically to kill that ruling, to bury it, to make impossible for any government, federal or state, to create a class of people born on this soil who were not citizens. The opening sentence reads, "All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States." 6 words in the middle of that sentence complicated everything. Subject to the jurisdiction thereof. That is what this entire case is about. 6 words. lawyers have been billing by the hour on those 6 words for 158 years. Now, here's what most people do not know. The 14th Amendment is not just a citizenship document. It is the most libertarian amendment in the Constitution after the Second Amendment. It's the legal mechanism by which the Bill of Rights applies to the state governments. Without the 14th Amendment, a state could theoretically deny you due process. Without the 14th Amendment, a state could disarm you. And I'm not speaking hypothetically. Chicago tried. A 76-year-old black man named Otis McDonald sued them using the 14th Amendment and won. More on that in a moment. Right? We'll tell you about Otis McDonald. He is directly relevant to this conversation, and nobody is connecting these dots. McDonald was a retired maintenance engineer who'd lived in Chicago's Morgan Park neighborhood since 1971. So his neighborhood had deteriorated. Gangs moved in. His lawn was regularly littered with garbage. It was a dump. His home and garage had been broken into 5 times. The man just wanted a handgun to defend himself in his own home. Chicago said no. Because Chicago, of course, a city that has never met a gun law, did not love, and a murder statistic it could explain, had a law that effectively banned handgun ownership in this district. So McDonald sued. His lawyers argued that the 14th Amendment, the same amendment written to free former slaves, required Chicago to respect his Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. So on June 28th of 2010, the Supreme Court agreed. In McDonald v. City of Chicago, the court ruled 5-4 that the Second Amendment is incorporated under the 14th Amendment and is therefore enforceable against state and local governments. You love to see it. Justice Alito also wrote for the majority that the right to keep and bear arms is among those fundamental rights necessary for, and this is his direct quote, our system of ordered liberty. In 2022, the court went further in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin. The court ruled 6-3 that the Second and 14th Amendments protect an individual's right to carry a handgun for self-defense outside of the home. Justice Clarence Thomas, he wrote that opinion. The same Justice Clarence Thomas, who today in the courtroom was the justice most likely to side with Trump on restricting birthright citizenship. So let that land for a second. The man who wrote the broadest gun rights decision in modern history using the 14th Amendment is now the justice most open to narrowing what that same amendment means for birthright citizenship. So that's not a contradiction necessarily, but it is the kind of thing that should make you think very carefully before you decide that the 14th Amendment is negotiable. If you're going to use the 14th Amendment to defend your gun rights in McDonald and Bruin, and you should, you may not be able to treat that amendment with the same flexibility when it comes to citizenship. So the same originalist framework that protects your handgun, it also defines who is a citizen. That is not originalism. That is just wanting things. If you just pick clauses, get the strict reading, okay? So now let's talk about the wallet. Justice Ketanji Brown made an argument that became the most mocked legal hypothetical since somebody asked whether a hot dog was a sandwich. So her full quote from yesterday's oral arguments said, I, a U.S. citizen, I'm visiting Japan. If I steal someone's wallet in Japan, the Japanese authorities can arrest me and prosecute me. I can also rely on them if my wallet is stolen. So there's this relationship. Even though I'm a temporary traveler just on vacation in Japan, I'm still locally owing allegiance in that sense. Peter the Great over in the chat says, do you think the Founding Fathers would be okay with the idea of incorporation like that? The Constitution was created to limit the federal government, not the states, right? Well, the true answer, Peter, is it depends on the Founding Father, because some of them would be yay, some of them would be no. The Founding Fathers weren't monolithic. It's hard to say. I think the question is, and this is the debate that I have had so frequently with Judge Napolitano, this discussion about liberty and how to get more liberty. The question is the process more important than the outcome? And the judge and I have, in our many debates on Wednesday morning in discussing this, I think the judge and I have arrived to some extent to an agreement that we think that the outcome, that the process is important, but that the outcome is more important. That, in other words, that the means is not as important as the ends. And therein lies the rub. In order to make an omelet, you have to break a few legs. Or break a few legs. You might have to break a few legs in the judge's world. ACLU lawyer responded to the Jackson saying, "I'm sorry, Miss Jackson." No. The ACLU lawyer said, "That's absolutely right, Justice Jackson." So Justice Jackson is an Ivy League educated Supreme Court justice. But of course, her mind directly went to theft for some reason. I'm not going to unpack that. We're just going to note it and move on like adults, okay? The underlying legal argument is not as ridiculous as the internet is making it sound. Jackson is pointing to something real. Under English common law, the tradition the 14th Amendment's framers were working in, allegiance meant being covered by the laws of a jurisdiction and being able to rely on that jurisdiction's protection. That's a legitimate historical argument. Chief Justice Roberts called the administration's counter-arguments very quirky. So the legal question is genuinely contested. But here's where the wallet analogy actually breaks down. This is the weak part. Japan arrests tourists who commit crimes. Japan does not then hand those tourists' children a Japanese passport. One of the best replies circulating on social media said it perfectly. "I got pulled over by the police in Mexico once. That means I'm Mexican. I have to go tell my kids." This is the weak part. It exposes the logical problem. Being subject to a country's criminal jurisdiction and having your child entitled to that country's citizenship are two completely different legal questions. And Justice Jackson conflated them. She treated them as one. The analogy proves territorial jurisdiction exists for anyone who is physically present. It doesn't prove that this kind of jurisdiction is what the framers meant by subject to the jurisdiction thereof for purposes of granting citizenship at birth. And remember, we're talking about the 14th Amendment here. We're not talking about the Founding Fathers. We're talking about the post-Civil War radical Republican Reconstructionists who passed a constitutional amendment that was about enfranchising former slaves. So when you're talking about the concept of what the framers of the 14th Amendment meant, you're talking historically about psychologically, mentally, people had just been scarred by 5 years of bloody internal civil war. They were dealing with an entirely different set of problems than what we're dealing with here in modern time. And it is also, even if you know damn near everything that there is to know about the founding fathers of this country, you're still not thinking in the same terms as the people who wrote the post-Civil War Reconstruction era amendments. The 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery, and the 14th, which defined the citizenship of the former slaves. This is making sense. I know that this is a lot of history and law and case studies. I hope that I'm not putting you guys back to sleep this morning. If so, have a sip of Founding Flavors coffee. I find this shit to be fascinating. I don't know about you, but it can't all be beautiful ladies of liberty on the show. But I do just so happen to have two beautiful ladies of liberty joining me. So we'll get away from the legal stuff in just a minute, guys. And Camelia Petersen will join us here in a little bit less than 10 minutes to talk about the hearing that we had yesterday to abolish the income tax in the state of Missouri. Don't get too excited. And then Heather Overstreet will be joining us at 8:30 a.m. Central. She was also at the committee hearing yesterday. She recently covered the No Kings protests that were happening across Missouri. We'll talk to her about that and more. She'll be here at 8:30 for Heather Overstreet from Another Missourians. Another Missouri will be on the show with us at 8:30. So it's all about Missouri in the second hour. We're going to have a good time. So here's what the framers of the 14th Amendment, remember, not Thomas Jefferson, not George Washington, the radical Republicans. Here's what they actually said in their own words. During the debates, Senator Lyman Trumbull, who was one of the primary architects of the 14th Amendment, was asked directly, "What does jurisdiction mean?" He answered that it means not owing allegiance to anybody else. Senator John Bingham, who was the principal author of Section 1 of the 14th Amendment, said that within the jurisdiction of the United States, a parent must not owe allegiance to any foreign sovereignty. The Solicitor General cited more than a dozen sources from the 5 decades following ratification, specifically addressing temporary visitors, all of them saying their children are not included in the citizenship clause. Now, here's the detail Justice Alito pointed out nobody wants to deal with honestly. Illegal immigration as a legal category did not exist when the 14th Amendment was ratified in 1868. The first federal immigration restriction law was not passed until 1882, 14 years later, which means that the framers of the 14th Amendment were not thinking about somebody flying from Beijing in a business class flight, booking a luxury suite in LA, giving birth, and flying home with an American passport for their child. That scenario did not exist. They were thinking about the children of freed slaves. So applying their words to a category of person that did not legally exist in 1868, it's not originalism, it's improvisation. And the birth tourism industry today is real. The Solicitor General argued today that unrestricted birthright citizenship has spawned, this is a direct quote from an official court argument, a sprawling industry of birth tourism as uncounted thousands of foreigners from potentially hostile nations have flocked to give birth in the United States in recent decades, creating a whole generation of American citizens abroad with no meaningful ties to the United States. When Roberts asked how many people actually do this, the Solicitor General said, no one knows for sure. He cited media estimates. What we know is this: the problem is real. Chinese billionaires are flying their wives to American hospitals to give birth. That is documented. The scale of that is unknown, but it is happening. So where does this all leave all of us? The 14th Amendment, it's one of the greatest documents in American history. It gave us McDonald v. Chicago. It gave us Bruin. It was written to do something radical, and it was necessary to make it impossible for government to create second-class citizens by birth. That is an anti-government, pro-individual liberty principle at its core. It's the reason Otis McDonald has his gun in Chicago. It's the reason you have constitutional protections against your state government. It's not an obstacle to liberty. It's one of its main structural supports. The question of what subject to the jurisdiction thereof means is contested. The framers' own words suggest a narrower meaning than the current practice. The 1898 Wong Kim Ark decision, which established this current broad interpretation, did not directly address illegal immigration because illegal immigration did not exist as a legal category at the time. Those are the facts, and they deserve a serious legal answer. Can I get an amen up in here? Oh, yeah? You know, Thomas Paine once wrote, "These are the times that try men's souls." He was talking about the American Revolution, but honestly, he could have been talking about Monday mornings. Thomas's Painkiller is a single origin Colombian roast from Founding Flavors Coffee. It is my number one favorite, most deliciousest coffee at forlibertyshop.com. The Founding Flavors Coffee is so good that I had to put the top 3 in a bundle because they're damn near tied. My favorite, guys: Thomas's Painkiller, Franklin's Electric Elixir, Jeffersonian Java. Don't you guys want to watch the mini documentary instead of commercials when Camellia comes up here in just a few minutes? Let's unlock the bonus content. If you bundle, and you will save over at forlibertyshop.com on the coffee page, scroll down and check out the top 3 favorite coffees I've selected for you. The number one selling product at forlibertyshop.com is Jeffersonian Java, in partly because the box is beautiful, looks like Monticello, partly because it's Thomas Jefferson, the sage of Monticello, partly because once you taste that light roast and get that unbelievable kick of caffeine, you will never buy other coffee other than Founding Flavors unless you're in an emergency, in which case you should never be in an emergency because you literally just bought the whole... I don't know nothing about delivering babies. AP for Liberty's favorite coffees. Try the top 3. If you buy the top 3 as this little bundle right here, you click that add to cart button that's jumping on the screen. You'll save. Bundle and save. Try the top 3. You'll get Thomas's Painkiller. You'll get Franklin's Electric Elixir, it has like a velvety, chocolatey feel to it, right? It doesn't taste like chocolate. It doesn't have flavor in it. It's just, it has that sort of like velvety mouthfeel that you get from chocolate. Speaking of mouthfeel, K-Cups also available for your mouth feeling at forlibertyshop.com. Knox's Continental Kick. It's like a Jeffersonian Java, like the light roast, but you get it in the K-Cup. Not the same blend, by the way, different coffee. And it's, I think Eva Lavasca was saying that her Cafe Voltaire mushroom coffee was making her feel like Drew Van Runkle on a Saturday night. Not those kind of mushrooms, guys. Coming up, we were both in Jefferson City's Capitol yesterday inside the Missouri Senate chamber watching something happen most people in this country do not even know is possible. Camelia is here to talk about what we saw. Do not go anywhere. You're watching the Wake Up America show, and this is the For Liberty Network.
In a city where businesses never sleep, the technology still crashes. When technology turns criminal, they send up the signal. He's not a myth, and he's definitely not your nephew who knows computers. He installs, he protects, he backs it up, he keeps your business online and out of trouble. Managed IT, security, cloud, support that actually answers the phone. Layer 8 tech. When your network breaks, he wakes. Call Drew before your tech needs a rescue signal.
George Washington spent 8 years making sure nobody knew where he was. Troop movements, secret dispatches. The man was a ghost. So when a barista leaned out a window and asked for his exact location in exchange for points they called stars, he looked at his flag and said, "I've already got my stars. 13 of them. Keep your dignity and your location intact. Grab a box of Washington's Revolutionary Roast at forlibertyshop.com.
Imagine bringing George Washington back to life. Just to explain that in 2025, men can get pregnant, waving an American flag might offend someone, and our government is $34 trillion in debt. But that's not all, George. We have drag queen story hour for toddlers. Pronouns are mandatory. And Harvard can't define woman. Oh. And we send billions to Ukraine but can't fix potholes in Ohio. You know, just normal modern empire stuff. I'm sure he'd be totally cool with it. Right after he finishes reloading. He didn't cross the Delaware for this nonsense, but you can carry on the fight with gear that would have made King George cry. Shop bold, shop free, shop forlibertyshop.com.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than
well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian.
It always has been.
Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Petersen. We're glad and thankful to have you here. Make sure that you guys click the like button if you haven't already. Rorschach loves that clip. Nice to see you, Rorschach. Welcome to the show. Appreciate your comments. Look at that lovely lady over there next to me. No, not the live lovely lady. She'll be here in a moment. It's that lady. Look what she's wearing, this green outfit. Phase out the income tax. She's green like money. Money has become one of my daughter's favorite words. She can't even speak full sentences, but she just goes, money, 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 money. And I'm like, oh, we've raised her right. While the national media was watching Trump sit silent in the Supreme Court and debating a stolen wallet in Tokyo, something was happening right here in Missouri that deserves serious attention. The House voted to advance legislation that would abolish our state income tax entirely. It's the first serious attempt to do something like this in 45 years. Zero state income tax. It's now moving through the Senate. We were there in the room, watching it happen in real time, moving it forward. If there's no income tax for your kids here in Missouri a decade from now, you got one person to thank. Well, many, but this is one of the top people to thank. Camelia, thank you, Camelia.
Good morning. We were in the room where it happened.
Yeah, and I helped. Hey, man.
That's right.
It was historic, but the best part of yesterday was watching people elbowing each other out of the way to get up to testify. It was like, I thought violence was going to break out yesterday because usually you would think that it would be the opposite. People are up there to like steal government's money and stuff. But no, because we live in a red state, people were like literally screaming at each other to get a chance to go and fight against the income tax. So I hope
something else.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a minute. And Heather Overstreet will be joining us live. She was there as well as soon as you're done today. But Camelia, I mean, how are we looking? The scariest part of this is really just the vote. If it crosses the governor's desk, it has to be voted on by Missouri citizens. And that's where we're kind of peeing our pants, right?
Yeah, I mean, after the hearing yesterday, I, just kind of the sense in the Capitol for the rest of the day when I talk to people, there's a very positive attitude about it now. That is different. Even in the Capitol, that is different than even a month ago. There was still, even among the legislature, some apprehension and uncertainty a month ago. I think everybody's feeling much more positive about everything now and positive that they can get it done. So I don't know how fast they will move on it as far as getting it to the floor of the Senate for debate. But I think that we'll see movement on it soon. But this hearing was the next big step. And I will say I talked to somebody that's kind of big in both, Missouri politics and also in national politics and has done this stuff for a long time. Also one of our fellow free market, conservative advocates. And so he said, and he's done politics and campaigns and everything else. He's an expert in this stuff. And so he asked me what I thought afterwards. And so I was telling him how it went. I thought it went really well. And, the thing is that we went toe to toe with the swamp, and really kind of the test in these committee hearings is, can you have enough witnesses there to match what the opposition brings? And we did. And the thing is we brought real people too. We brought you. It's not just lobbyists, right? We brought you. We brought Heather's dad, business owners, just regular people from around the state who, live with this stuff and work with their businesses and feel the impact of it. So it went really well, and I was very pleased. And thank you for coming.
Yeah, well, you're welcome, Camelia. When we were all fighting to get up there, Chandler Haynes was from the GOP was up there, and I was like, Chandler, are you being paid to be here today? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, I'm paying to be here, so if you don't mind. And he was very gracious in allowing me to go. But it was, there was some drama there yesterday, but it was coming from our side because we were all crawling over one another to be heard on that one. But it was great to see so many Missourians showing up to testify in favor of defending liberty. But the trolls were out online. People were attacking us. Camelia, I'd love to talk about in a little bit later about the psychology of you moving from like a super grassroots person to now you're a lobbyist, and you're getting like the conservative like grassroots people who are looking at you and going, she's a paid lobbyist. A paid lobbyist. I had Stephanie and I were talking about it yesterday because I was like, the thing is, because I was having a conversation with another lobbyist while I was there. I was like, the difference is that Camellia, she might be like a mercenary, but she's like a patriotic privateer in the American Revolution. She's a true believer. She's one of us.
So here's the thing, too, because we talk about this sometimes, because, yes, I'm a registered lobbyist. I have to do that to be able to advocate, with legislators. And I am paid to do it, yes. But here's the thing. There is a difference in who you're lobbying for. Like there is, there is no incentive for me to lose on a bill or to not fight for the wrong thing or to not fight for the right thing. But here's the thing, like when you talk about a contract lobbyist, there is an incentive there for job preservation to not necessarily always get their stuff across the finish line, right? I mean, because it pays them to keep that business going. And, if they could show a little progress, even if it's not all the way, well, they keep getting paid to make a little more progress on it. So there's a little bit of a perverse incentive when it comes to contract lobbying. And I think, that there are plenty of contract lobbyists who do work with integrity and they don't operate that way. But it is it's something that's a natural part of that.
There was a state representative the other day who was accusing the Missouri gun community, head of Aaron Dorr, of being the person who's responsible for gun bills not passing in Missouri. And the accusation from that state representative, at least from what I could tell from his video that he made on it, was that Dorr essentially would be putting himself out of a job if he succeeded. I don't know Aaron Dorr. I've always had good conversations with Aaron Dorr when I've spoken to him about the Second Amendment. But that was the accusation, and there is that perverse incentive if you are a lobbyist, because what do you do once the income tax is done? But I think in your part, you would just say, well, now we're going to lower the property tax.
The truth is I'm not having to go out there. And thank God for billionaires, right? Because thank God for the people who have the time, treasure, and talent. And we love the people with treasure because they make it possible for those of us with the talent and the time to do the work. And so, there's, when you talk about someone like the Missouri Firearms Coalition and Aaron Dorr, yes, the complaint is that he's getting people ginned up over, bills filed by Democrats in a super red state that are never going to go anywhere. They won't even see the light of day in committee, but he gets people really riled up about it so that he can get money from them. And then, and the problem is that the self-perpetuating cycle of these kind of things also means that if you get a bill through, and the devil is in the details, and who doesn't sound like a bill that's the Second Amendment Preservation Act? Of course, the court struck it down. We want to get it through again, but you don't want to do it the wrong way. You need to do it in a way that you don't immediately go back to the courts and get it struck down again. So he's incentivized, honestly, to put through bills that have that tendency, because he just continues to make money off of it if courts strike it down again.
Yeah, it is a strange incentive that people have who lobby for ideas. I was speaking to a friend yesterday who was a lobbyist for marijuana. Maybe you know him. And now it's a challenge because when you succeed, you then have to go and find another way to ply your trade. So it is a perverse incentive. But let's talk about what we're looking at with the vote situation, because I was talking to Chandler yesterday about the strategy and the messaging of how we're going to go to the ballot box. And the thing that we both agreed on is that we really just need to be very simple. We need to make it as simple as possible. Why vote yes? Because the left has complicated the amendment so much, and that the ballot language is going to be very challenging. So that whatever our messaging is going to be when we talk to voters this fall to convince people to do it, we have to make it simple, clean, straightforward, right?
Yes. The bottom line is you keep more of your money. The government shouldn't take your first dollar. They shouldn't take your money before you ever even see it. That is wrong on so many levels. The income tax is far more insidious and perverse than any other kind of taxation, that we can do. So I think that's a big thing. And, that in itself is not necessarily going to resonate with people, because everybody is like, lower my taxes? Yes, please. They don't care which tax it is. But I do think one of the things after the hearing that some of us talked about afterward, and it went right up until 1 o'clock, it went for a long time, but is that the one thing that we are probably failing to make sure and highlight about this bill is that it does have a mechanism that when you expand your base and you get the money coming in from outside of Missouri through sales tax, that the local governments have to use that surplus revenue to drive down other taxes at the local level. That's huge. Like, they have to take that surplus. Now, they can decide which tax rate they're going to apply it to. They could apply it to their local sales tax rate. They could apply it to personal property tax, real property tax. They can do any of those things, but they can't just bring in more money. I think that's one of the things we're getting hit with is like, oh, you're just going to bring in all this money and you're going to spend more, right? Okay, that's not the idea at all. And that's very clearly laid out and is an important guardrail. But that piece about being able to utilize this to drive down property tax rates is huge.
Yeah. The thing that I think is so important is that we continue to have a positive message on it, that we don't go negative. Missouri voters don't respond to that very well. And Missouri is kind of, I don't know, it has an old Dixiecrat vibe. We used to be we used to be a very strongly, heavily Democratic state, and then our Republican supermajority is this sort of bizarre juxtaposition of real true conservative Republicans who are trying to do great things, and then these rhino Republicans who would be Democrats if the primaries weren't so important in the Republican Party.
Sure. Well, I mean, like Missouri, and Missouri's by far not the only state in this position where you look like you're supermajority red, but the truth is it wasn't that long ago since we were Democrat, and there are a lot of areas that have just recently, and it's partially too because the Democrat Party pushed people out because they became so extreme and so progressive that you had, pro-life, pro-2A Democrats, blue dog Democrats who had nowhere else to go. And so their avenue to be involved was the Republican Party. So you end up with more moderate Republicans.
Wow. I haven't seen this in a long time. I've got the picture up that we took yesterday of you and me and Heather, who will be joining us in about 15 minutes on the Wake Up America show. And underneath the tweet, the picture of us standing in the Missouri Capitol, somebody had tweeted Austin Petersen, and he spelled my name right, Austin Petersen for president. Wow. I haven't seen that in like 10 years. But no, I enjoyed appearing yesterday, having the opportunity to talk about why this was a good thing. Obviously, you got to meet my second employee yesterday, Colton, so I am a job creator.
That's right.
And it matters to me. I mean, Stephanie and I, we have to run our finances, run our books, pay the federal taxes, which are insane. And then when you're a business owner, every time you add a new employee, you create an unbelievable mountain of paperwork for yourself that you have to wonder how much of your employees' productivity is being canceled out by the fact that the government puts so many rules on the people who are creating the jobs for people in this economy.
Yeah.
And then to add the income tax on top of that with all of these other challenges, Camelia, it just makes it really hard to make a living.
Yes. I do want to point out too, because you had Senator Curtis Gregory on your show a little while back, and I really appreciate it because, there were so many people wanting to testify that after the first couple of witnesses, and I should tell your viewers too, that Dr. Aaron Hedlund is on Trump's Council of Economic Advisors. So he's an economist, and he was the first one they put up there because he knows all the numbers. They break it all down. The Trump administration put out a whole, white paper basically on why all states, not just Missouri, but why all states should get rid of their income tax. But Senator Gregory, everybody's time being limited, he gave you more time by asking a couple of questions to allow you to get more of your information out. And I really appreciated that because it's one of those little things that they can do for us, in those hearings like that. So that was cool.
Yeah, it was. And I had a couple of good questions, and I think I got a little bit of insight yesterday, Camelia, on something that we should use going forward. Because Kansas screwed up the way that they implemented their income tax abolition. And yesterday when I started kind of talking smack on Kansas in a little way, sort of, I guess just denigrating them with facts, not like being crude or anything like that. I started talking smack on Kansas, and even the Democrats were all of a sudden on our side. And I realized, Camelia, that if we want to sell our income tax, then we need to dunk on Kansas at the same time.
Well, here's the deal, and this is the prime time to do it too, because the Chiefs have gone to Kansas. The border war has been restarted. No joke. There was an agreement, in Kansas City and Missouri and Kansas, that they were kind of there was a truce as far as trying to steal businesses from each other, on either side. And that truce, is officially off. So
yeah, we're fighting Kansas now. So it's so if you're going to message things and anything's negative, it should not be negative towards our opposition in Missouri. It should be negative towards Kansas. We've learned something useful.
That's right.
Yeah. I thought I was going to get grilled by Democrats, but no, it was actually Senator Brown who was curious about my testimony on Kansas. Kansas, they just screwed the pooch on their rollout, and we watched what they did and specifically crafted our income tax repeal to avoid those same mistakes. So how will we avoid those mistakes, Camelia, without putting everyone to sleep?
Yeah, I mean, you can't cut your taxes and increase your spending. That's the bottom line. That's what Kansas did.
This is why Camelia is the one in charge of this stuff, because she makes it so easy to understand. Camelia, I love this because I think Missouri has a chance to join a league of states of 9 other states that have gotten rid of their income tax. We can become the 10th. I read that there were a couple of other states that are working on theirs fast and furious as well. Yes. Was it Nebraska or?
I mean, Arkansas is just, our neighbor to the south. And then Iowa is too. Iowa, I think, I'm not sure if they are already down to a flat 2 point something, but they're headed there very quickly. So yeah, there are lots of states. This is quickly becoming a pretty a good competition, in the states, which that's something that we don't talk about a lot. I don't know how much it resonates with people, but it is an important thing, is that if we're sitting here and we're like the 25th, 30th state to get to zero, it doesn't do us any good. We need to be among the top.
Well, one of the things I realize is that people really struggle with seeing the bigger picture and looking at the long game when it comes to these fights. Because when I was posting yesterday about us abolishing the income tax, people were saying that, they're going to raise your sales taxes and they're going to take it from somewhere else. They're going to increase your real estate or your property tax, whatever. All I saw when I was doing research on the Missouri income tax was this decade-long project of conservatives in Missouri to reduce the rate of income tax. Yeah. People don't know. We were 9% income tax rate here in Missouri? It was very high, and we've slowly, over the course of years, whittled down the income tax to where it's at 4.2 or something right now.
We're still at 4.7, but you're right. I mean, we have been doing that slow progression, but here's where we're at though. And this I think was pointed out yesterday. We have been growing a minimal amount though, just a very minimal amount. We've just kind of been maintaining. So you can't just continue that stagnation, right? And so that's the biggest thing, is that the very, very slow growth model is okay, but it's not it doesn't serve you well in the long run, which is why we need a much more drastic, faster acting kind of change.
Well, exactly. But my point here, of course, is that, representatives change, elections change, people come in and out, but there has been a passing of the baton in this state that has been a generational project of conservatives and libertarians in Missouri who have worked to get to the point now where we have. It's like Grover Norquist. He has a quote. He says, I want to shrink my government down to the size to where I can fit it in a bathtub and then drown it in the bathtub.
I don't know if I've heard that one from him.
We've shrunk the income tax down. It's in the bathtub now, and we are throttling it with everything that we have, choking the life out of it. And once we're done with that, Camelia, will our project be completed, or will there be other things? And that's the thing, is that that liberty, our individualized, this is not going to be some overnight sweeping election for liberty. No, the opportunity we have feels like that. But this was a long time in the making, a decade in the making.
Yes. We stand on the shoulders of people who have worked on this for a very long time. There are so many people that I've talked to who were representatives, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And, they have stories about the fights they have. So no matter what it is, whether it's school choice, whether it's, getting rid of income tax, lowering income taxes, doing taxes better, like there have been people that you always build on their work. And that's what it takes too. Like the wheels move pretty slowly, except for when they're spending your money, which is why, there's always kind of job security here, because the tendency of government will be to always grow. Even now, while we're trying to get rid of the income tax, there is still bill after bill after bill that want to give special handout tax credits to different organizations and special interests. And I'm like, we're trying to get rid of this thing, not keep giving people more handouts for it.
Exactly, Camellia. Exactly. Camellia, this was a wonderful conversation, and thank you for including me yesterday in the Senate hearing, inviting me to go there. We ended up being a great day. Colton was there, and he got to learn a lot. He was really grateful to be there and see how our government works. Is there anything else that our audience needs to know before we let you go?
Yeah, there's something that kind of along with the income taxes. I would say this is Missouri specific, but it's actually not. It's happening in several states. It may be happening in yours, and maybe you have a state that already has this. But the utility prices, energy prices, have been going up, and up. And in Missouri, like people have been, just screaming about this for a few years. And our problem with, our monopoly system for electricity and whatnot is that you have no options. And so there is a movement right now in our state, and I know there are in other states too, to inject some competition into electricity provisions for people. And so we had a press conference on that yesterday. We had a hearing on it in the Senate. Sorry, not yesterday, but the day before. And then we also had a hearing in the House yesterday. And here's the thing. The utilities, these monopolies, will send lobbyist after lobbyist after lobbyist. Like they have something to protect. But they don't care about you because they have no incentive to provide you with transparency or good customer service. And this is why that, like, when we send things out, we say, I need you to submit testimony online, or I need you to call or whatever. That's why it's so important, because they're going to screw you over, and you're the only one that has to say about it.
Camellia Petersen, thank you so much for all you do for liberty in Missouri and across the country. We'll look forward to seeing you next Tuesday on the Wake Up America show. Have a wonderful day.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.
Then I call up France, Macron, whose wife treats him extremely badly. And still recovering from the right to the jaw. Mm-hmm. And I say, Emmanuel, we'd love to have some help in the Gulf, even though we're setting records and knocking out bad people and knocking out ballistic missiles. We'd love to have some help. If you could you please?
Insult the guy and then ask for help. All right, guys, look, grilling season is coming, and you have two options. Option one, you can show up to your own backyard and whatever you grabbed off of the floor and hope nothing catches fire. Option two, you can show up in the colonial soldier costume apron from forlibertyshop.com. And if you do, then you'll immediately become the most interesting person at every cookout for the rest of your life. It's $32.99. That's delivered. It ships free because this is America. Of course, we're free. Thomas Jefferson barbecued. George Washington entertained. Neither of them did it in plain clothes. Do not dishonor their memory. Head to forlibertyshop.com. Get a colonial soldier costume apron. Didn't we just sell a Let Us Be Independent t-shirt? Who was that? Was that you, Becky? Let us be independent. Look at that beautiful For Liberty Shop tag. Head on over to forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. All right, and we will take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the largest single-day protest in U.S. history, according to some estimates. 8 million people reported in the streets. George Soros, communists, a grooming business in Missouri that has more sense than most people on cable news. And so don't go anywhere, guys.
It seems like there's a lack of diversity here today, that it's mostly people who look like you and I. And I just
It is not
for black people, for people of color to get out on the street. They're at risk when they do that. If anybody's going to get arrested here, it's going to be a black person. It is not safe for them, and they don't need to participate. We need to walk in their name.
Gotcha. Okay. Wow. Okay. What do you think about voter ID? Do you think it's racist?
It's 100% a tactic to control the population and prevent people from voting, so that the only votes so that the gerrymandering can work, so that white voters can vote in white Christian males.
Have you been voting blue most of your life?
I voted blue in the womb.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
If you had to vote for a Republican, JD.
All right. So another fellow Missourian joining us next for her very first appearance on the show. Don't go away. She's blowing up all over the place in Missouri. Now I'm going to bring her to you, America. Heather Overstreet joins us live. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
City where businesses never sleep, the technology still crashes. When technology turns criminal, they send up the signal. He's not a myth, and he's definitely not your nephew who knows computers. He installs, he protects, he backs it up, he keeps your business online and out of trouble. Managed IT, security, cloud, support that actually answers the phone. Layer 8 tech. When your network breaks, he wakes. Call Drew before your tech needs a rescue signal.
George Washington spent 8 years making sure nobody knew where he was. Troop movements, secret dispatches. The man was a ghost. So when a barista leaned out a window and asked for his exact location in exchange for points they called stars, he looked at his flag and said, "I've already got my stars. 13 of them." Keep your dignity and your location intact. Grab a box of Washington's Revolutionary Roast at 4libertyshop.com.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's...
Death to the Zionist entity! Death to America and death to Dan Zimmerman!
So again, still following me.
Yikes. Good morning. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show, and we're on the 4 Liberty Network. That's 5 shows on this live network. Growing like crazy, thanks to the generosity of people like you. Click that like button. If today's your first time watching, click the follow button as well. On March 28th, No Kings organizers claimed 8 million Americans took to the streets in over 3,300 locations across all 50 states. They called it No Kings, the largest nonviolent protest in modern American history. Those people there looked rather violent. The lead organizer on the permit filing for the flagship march in St. Paul was Indivisible, a group that has received over $7 million from George Soros' Open Society Foundation since 2017. Also in that coalition, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, the People's Forum, Code Pink, China's favorite ally, and the Freedom Road Socialist Organization, whose members openly discussed using that to advance the revolution. The White House called it a Trump derangement therapy session. Thank you, Mr. President. Question nobody's asking is what happens next. Joining me now is Heather Overstreet. She's an entrepreneur, political commentator, the kind of young woman who built a business from the ground up at 16 and never stopped asking hard questions about who's actually pulling the strings on things. Hi, Heather.
Hey, how are you?
Great. It was great meeting you yesterday. Thanks so much for joining us. Heather, you're based in mid-Missouri, Boonville, Trump country. Did any of the No Kings protests show up in your community? And if so, what did they look like on the ground?
This time they bailed, but that's one of actually my first videos that ever went viral was me making fun of the No Kings in Boonville. So, and they all look the same. Sorry.
The organizers claimed they had 8 million protesters, but I couldn't find any independent third-party verification. You said that they bailed. Do you think that the numbers were anywhere near 8 million?
I mean, that's bigger than the state of Missouri. And I made this post. I said, guys, go look at their website. The way that they have their protest structured is you take an area like mid-Missouri, for example, and you have all the small towns. All the small towns meetings are at like 10 or 11. And then the jumbo one in Jeff City is later in the day. So that's so they can all make it. So I don't know how they count, but I think maybe they just changed their dinosaur costume to a zebra costume and then call that a new person.
Heather, this group, Indivisible is what they're called, the lead coordinator on the official permit for the flagship march. This group received over $7 million from George Soros's Open Society Foundations since 2017. So at what point does a grassroots protest stop being grassroots?
I've actually never heard them call themselves grassroots, but I mean, if they did, it's definitely not. To me, grassroots is no money at all, but go off.
Yeah. The ACLU, the teachers unions, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, the mainstream press barely touched this stuff. As someone who covers what the media won't, why do you think that the detail on who these people were disappeared?
I really don't know. I mean, I try to be careful about assumptions, but my dad always said, if you ask questions and you don't get any answers, the only thing left to do is assume. So but I don't know on that one. That's, yeah.
Heather, Missouri, we don't like kings. I mean, I like the idea of no kings, but it is ironic that the party that spent, how many years, 2 years during the COVID-19 pandemic, trying to legislate everything down, including the blood cell counts in our bodies, calling us grandma killers, authoritarian tyrants in every stripe, are now crying out that we don't need a king. Do you appreciate the irony?
Yeah, and they also, lift up places like Iran, which allows you to marry 9-year-old girls. They're just confused. They just do what the big boy tells them, and then that's about that. So
there's no bill that these people want passed, right? There's no real policies they're rallying behind. I have argued, Heather, and I wonder if you agree and would expand on this, that really this is not a movement for anything. It's just anti-America and anti-West.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just, I don't know what it is why they hate Trump so much. They can't say one good thing about him. They wish ill will upon him, all sorts of things. It's wild to me. I always ask people this. I'm like, the right. Can you guys think of one person who you hate as much as the left hates Trump? Because I don't think so.
Why do you think it is, though, Heather? I mean, you're a young person, sort of new in the world, and I'm an old head, so I kind of look at things from more of the bigger picture perspective, and you're looking at things on the ground. Talk to me a little bit about why do you think there is this vitriolic hatred for the man in your mind?
I think that our country is moving away from God, and religious or not, even Benjamin Franklin, who was not religious, said that church is good. And I think that people just move further and further away from that. The Bible never changes and people do. So that's, I think, how that happened.
And you think that a lot of this has to do with a lack of faith?
And a lack of standard. Because the faith part is just your relationship with God, but there's still a standard to be upheld, because we're not here to force people to be Christians, obviously, but there's still a standard that needs to be upheld. So when people in leadership don't have their own standard and their own relationship with God, I think that's kind of how we start compromising on things.
Well, talk to us a little bit about the Republican Party. The midterms are coming up. One of the demographics that the Republican Party has been losing, Heather, has been your demographic. The biggest challenge that Republicans face typically come from postmodern feminist, modern white liberal females who lead the charge for these No Kings protests. When you see these protests, quite frequently the organizers are white liberal females. So what is the Republican Party doing to lose young white females, and what can we do to fix it?
Well, I have this saying, it's Republicans are all policy and no fun. And I think that there's a beautiful thing about Republicans, and it's that they're very good at policy, but sometimes I think that's all they do. And I think I wish Republicans were a little bit more joyful while they're working. Like when I went to the Capitol ball, I wanted to go to the Democrat office. Like those dudes had canes and fedoras and bedazzled shoes and music playing. I was like, I want to go in there. But I also say that we're Republicans because of policy, and the character part is up to you. I will say the whole reason I'm a Republican is because somebody sought me out. So the Boone County Republicans were like, oh, Heather has a passion. We have similar values. I'm going to go seek her out. So I think that Republicans just might need to work on their social skills a little bit. And I love them dearly.
Okay.
But I do think, I think they need to get out there.
Now that is funny. That is very funny. So, have a little more fun. I mean, I've been having discussions about this very topic with some friends of mine, and Jeremy Kaufman specifically, he's from New Hampshire. He was talking about, maybe you won't like the way that I word this, but he was talking about giving women something to do, right? Giving them...
I've heard of this.
And yes, and part of that conversation stems from the fact that if modern society has given us all these conveniences that have liberated women from their traditional roles, they will seek out a purpose in their life. And the Democratic Party, the socialists, the communists, the feminists, they have a handbook ready to go. They're fun. They're doing drum circles. They're smoking ayahuasca in Mexico. They're having premarital sex. They're the party that is attracted to people who are young and wild and want to go to Tomorrowland and listen to EDM music. Young conservative Republican women maybe not feeling that same way. So I don't know how the Republicans could potentially mimic that level of programmatic programming that they have for young women, but how would you suggest? What's the first stop? I mean, do you really suggest getting some of these fat, nerdy Republicans into a drum circle, Heather? Because I don't know how we're going to attract women with the Republican men that we have right now. That sense of fun. Like, what do you need us to all be cowboys and play the banjo at the Missouri State Fair? Is that how we'll get you?
Well, first off, I don't think the Republican Party should mimic the Democratic Party because the Democrats aren't fun either. I don't think that doing cult-like activities and dressing up in weird costumes and saying the regime is against me is fun. I think those ladies, you're correct, they need something to do, but that kind of stuff, that's Karen behavior. Like, that's not fun either. I'm talking like guns and cars, and I like the rat race thing that y'all do. Like, that stuff is fun. And the other thing, too, is Democrats lie. Republicans, we need to stop lying. Stop telling women that they're going to be happy based on what you think. Like, start telling them they're going to be happy based on what God thinks about them, because there's nobody that values me more than God. And so when women need something to do, it needs to be the correct thing to do, and that's between you and God. So I think, to be more fun, it's really not that complicated. Like,
Heather, I'm going to have to stop you right there and say I completely disagree, because let me tell you something.
Go ahead.
If American men, conservative right-wing men, could just shoot guns and party and have a rodeo and be attractive to women, then we would have solved the problem of the liberal females who are taking things over. I think there's something more there, that we have lost a generation of women. When you look at the polls, young women specifically have gone so far left as to go off the reservation. Young men specifically have become a little bit more right wing, and there's all this talk about toxic masculinity in our society, but specifically young women, and there's a lot of polling to justify this. Young women have become radically left wing. I mean, to what do you attribute that? And is there a better solution than, shoot guns? Because I'll shoot guns all day long, but I don't think the women are going to come running for that. So, what do you think about how young women have been radicalized into leftist views?
Well, first off, you didn't ask me about the Democrats. You asked me what I think Republicans can do to be more fun. Mm-hmm. So disagree if you want, but I think that stuff is way more fun. If you want to appease to women specifically, and that's what you're wanting to go after, and versus the Republican Party in general, because think about masculine things have been suppressed, and Republicans can build men up. And people like me, like there's a lot of women out there that also like stuff like that. I find it very fun. I love off-roading. I love adventure, all that kind of stuff. I'm just saying appeal to what the Democrats are suppressing, which is that fun American stuff, that patriotic stuff. But if you want to appeal to women specifically, I've always had more trouble doing that. It's a lot harder for me to find females in the Republican Party. And somebody actually told me once, the reason why there aren't too many young females in the Republican Party is because they're out raising families. I think that is a valid argument. But as far as like, why did the women become so radical? I go right back to the same thing. It's just godless. If you look at all those women, they hate God and they hate what this country was founded on. And I think that's where it started.
Heather, how did you get into politics?
I own a business.
Tell us the story.
So the short story of it is when I was 22, I was service-based. And when I was 22, I went to buy my first commercial property. And so I did. And then when I went to the building inspector's office, I said, all right, I'm here for my permit. And he said, no, you're not. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, it's zoned for this commercial, not this commercial. So you got it wrong. And I was like, well, can we rezone it? He's like, no. And so for 30 minutes straight, not over exaggerating, he berated me and said, I may as well give up. I shouldn't even try. It's not going to happen. And so then I got in my car and I was crying and I called my dad and I was like, he says I can't do it. He's like, why? I'm like, he said I can't. He goes, okay, why do you believe him? Don't believe him. And so ever since that day, I just, there's something else my dad taught me, which is don't complain about a problem without offering a solution. And I was like, well, there's no way I can run this business without complaining about these people. So I joined the planning and zoning committee, and then I joined city council. And then at the same time, I was making TikToks that weren't even political at the time because I was camera shy. I said no elected official on any level should be camera shy. And then I was trying to find my genre, like what I wanted to make videos about. I made one about how I voted for Trump, and then everyone hated me, and then I kind of liked it. So yeah, that's how it happened.
Yeah, I had the same thing, Heather, where I've been in politics for quite some time. And at first in 2016, I was against Trump. And then I saw how he governed and I liked it. So then I supported Trump, but then I lost a lot of friends. I mean, I'm talking about people I went to the prom with, friends who hate my guts now because I like Donald Trump. There is a strange mania. There is a Trump derangement syndrome that we were talking about a little bit earlier. But, women in politics, men in politics, we're not going to solve all of those problems today, but we might be able to solve at least Missouri's problems on a small way. Yesterday, you and I showed up at the same time. Literally, we jumped into the desk at the same time to testify in favor of abolishing Missouri's income tax. Heather, why do you support getting rid of Missouri's income tax?
Because why would you take the people's money away before it hits their pockets? That's the simple answer of it. It's like, what happened to no taxation without representation? Like, why are you taking my money before I even get it?
I mean, as a job creator, a business owner, I mean, you know more than anybody how much the government makes it hard for people to make a living. I have to pay a self-employment tax. Mm-hmm. It's a nightmare. I mean, the federal government, I think God takes 10%. The government takes like 50s in some ways when you count, when you add everything up. Some of us actually pay more than 50% of our income in taxes. It's a nightmare. Yesterday, we appeared together at the Missouri income tax abolishing. It sounds like it's going to go to the voters. Governor Kehoe will sign it, but we have to convince our fellow Missourians, Heather. And historically, Missouri voters have not been reliable allies of conservative ballot issues. So, what do you think how do you think is a good way for us to sell to our fellow Missouri citizens that it's time for us to abolish the income tax? How should we talk to them about it?
I would say patience, kindness, gentleness, and consistency. Because I think a lot of the reason that my fellow conservatives and Republicans are hesitant of it is because part of the definition of conservative is slow to change, but it's not to never change because growth cannot happen without change. And if I were to put myself in their shoes, like they're fearful, these farmers are like, well, I buy huge products at once, like a tractor's 200 grand. And that's nerve wracking to them because they're thinking that the sales tax is just going to raise to a point where they can't afford to do their operations, which isn't true. But that fear is slightly irrational. So if I were to put myself in their shoes, I would need somebody to be very patient with me. So that's probably my best answer. Maybe not the most fun one, but.
Heather, it's been really exciting to watch your meteoric rise here in Missouri online. Everybody's been saying, hey, Austin, you got to talk to Heather Overstreet. You got to talk to Heather Overstreet. And I even saw my good friend Nelson, who is one of our favorites, who's a member of our community this morning. He was really excited that we were having you on. So thanks so much for joining us. And is there anything that you think we missed in our conversation today, or anything you'd like to plug or share before we let you go?
No, I don't think so. I really appreciate you having me. If you guys just want to check me out, just look my name up. I'm all over the place. So I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thanks so much, Heather. And hopefully we'll have you back again real soon. If you're ever in Jefferson City, let us know. We'll have you in studio. Sound good?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
What was that? Dear Lord, Austin. Wrong clip. Oh, they're going to have to clip that one the right way, Brad. Make sure that they don't have pictures of that festival up there. That was the wrong damn clip. This is why I need a producer. Have we unlocked the bonus content? Every day we produce a little 5-minute mini documentary over at on the show, and if we raise $100, then we unlock that bonus content, and we're like $10 away. So if in the next 10 minutes we happen to unlock that bonus content, then we will play it so that you guys won't miss the opportunity to see it. Today's little mini documentary is a biopic of Samuel Adams, 250th anniversary of the United States. Sam Adams mini documentary available to you guys. If we raise $10, you can kick it in through Rumble Rants. My recommendation to you guys, I keep hitting the wrong stinking buttons. My recommendation, guys, head on over to forlibertyshop.com. Stephanie just keeps dropping bangers over at the shop. Look at this. The Let Us Be Independent t-shirt, brand new, Let Us Be Independent vintage tee, available at forlibertyshop.com. We sold one this morning, and then Stephanie made a new one, I think, or did she take it down? It was like looks like she might have taken it down. All right, I might have got a note about that one. Well, anyways, the latest product drops always available at forlibertyshop.com. So when you exit, where do we exit? Through the Grift Shop. Thanks so much, but it took down to fix the ages of the Founding Fathers. Good idea, Stephanie. Always be accurate. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Today is Thursday. That means that Cafecito Libre starring Maylene Salavarria is at 3 p.m. Central Time today. Make sure that you watch her, and then Culturama live tonight at 7 p.m. The Fort Liberty Network has 5 live shows, if you can believe it. We're going to continue to add more. We're going to continue to grow our community. Boston Tea Party mug is my favorite recent drop, says Nathan in the FLX. Nathan, what's up, man? What's your name? Is it Nathan or is it something else? I was talking to Frank and Beans yesterday, and his name wasn't actually Frank, which makes sense, but... But I had a nice conversation with Frank and Beans yesterday. He's going to look like he's going to support the For Liberty Network and our growth. If you haven't supported the For Liberty Network financially, but you want to contribute, happy to give you a call. Nathan in the FLX would love to converse with you directly. If you want to have a phone call, dude, send me a text at 573-319-1586. We'll schedule a personal phone call. Send me a text, 573-319-1586. Nathan, I'd love to talk to you directly all the way up there in the Finger Lakes region of New York. Bud, send us your phone number and a good time to call. Today at noon, I get to go have lunch with Amy J. Easley. We're building a real community made of real people. This is not just an online thing. The For Liberty Network is growing. We're expanding. We're going to be, Nathan, by the way, we're going to be in your neck of the woods when we're coming to Manchester, New Hampshire, April 30th. So we're bringing the network April 30th to Manchester, New Hampshire. So I'll give you all the details about that if we speak on the phone, Nathan. So if you want to hear about it, send me a text and I'll give you a call maybe later today. Sound good? Good. Good. All right, guys. See you all tomorrow on the Wake Up America show and the 4 Liberty Network.
City where businesses never sleep, the technology still crashes. When technology turns criminal, they send up the signal. He's not a myth, and he's definitely not your nephew who knows computers. He installs, he protects, he backs it up, he keeps your business online and out of trouble. Managed IT, security, cloud, support that actually answers the phone. Layer 8 tech. When your network breaks, he wakes. Call Drew before your tech needs a rescue signal.
George Washington spent 8 years making sure nobody knew where he was. Troop movements, secret dispatches. The man was a ghost. So when a barista leaned out a window and asked for his exact location in exchange for points they called stars, he looked at his flag and said, "I've already got my stars. 13 of them. Keep your dignity and your location intact. Grab a box of Washington's Revolutionary Roast at 4libertyshop.com.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than
Well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian.
it always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
And what is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
The left in America tells us not to have kids to save the planet, but in Cuba, they stopped having kids because the state destroyed the earth.
Collectivism doesn't create justice. It creates shortages, corruption, and power for the few. I've not just seen it, I've lived it. My family escaped it. Now the same failed ideas are being sold to a new generation. I'm here to expose the lie and defend liberty. From Cuba to Argentina to the United States, the freedom movement is rising. Cafecito Libre is the exile voice of economic truth. Cafecito Libre, premiering March 3rd as part of the For Liberty Network, only on Rumble.